Major cities, some of the most iconic locations in classic WoW, and areas where many players spend hours upon hours browsing the auction house, doing professions, AFKing, or dueling outside the gates. Some major cities are beloved by almost all players, and some of them are as barren as a desert and see little to no visitors. This video will be ranking the major cities from worst to best. The main criteria for this video are going to be the aesthetics or visuals of each city, the location of each city in the world, the convenience the city brings with organization and placement of things within them, and the vibes. Before the video starts, make sure to subscribe for more WoW content and hit the notification bell to never miss another video. I'm trying to reach 5,000 subs by the end of 2025, so y'all's support is greatly appreciated. That being said, let's begin with the city in last place. First up, we have Darnassus, located in Teldrassil and home of the Night Elves. Let's start with the pros of the city. First is that it looks really good. The aesthetics of the city are top-notch, and it is by far the prettiest of the major cities in the game. I'm a big fan of the lake in the middle of the city, surrounding the bank under the tree that looks like a bear. The Temple of Elune also looks really nice, and the Night Elf architecture just looks good in general. The music in Darnassus is also one of the better ones out of the major cities, and has a very fitting ethereal vibe to it. That is about all there is for good things about Darnassus though, as the rest of it is kind of annoying. First of all, since there's a lake in the middle, this zone is pretty spread out, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, but when the bank, auction house, and profession trainers are all in separate areas of the city, it's really annoying. Most other cities have their banks and auction houses close to each other, which makes selling things from your bank far more convenient, and not having this could be made up for by having the profession trainers nearby, but they aren't. The other big knock on the city is the location in the world it's in. Unfortunately, Teldrassil is probably in the absolute worst corner of the world it could be in, with only a few questing zones nearby, and literally no major endgame content near it. This pretty much renders Darnassus uninhabited, as there's no reason to be there compared to the other Alliance cities since nothing is nearby. Perhaps if Teldrassil and Darnassus were located to the south of Kalimdor, near Silithus, it would see more activity since it would at least be close to AQ. Another reason there is no point in being here is that there are very few quests in the city, and there are no world buffs, so the reasons to ever be here are few and far between. I do think this is unfortunate, because this city has some of my favorite aesthetics, but they aren't good enough to give me a reason to place it higher on the list. Next, I'm going to put Undercity, the major city of the undead in Tearsfall Glades. Undercity is cool for a few reasons. First is obviously the lore behind this city, as it was the prior capital to the Kingdom of Loideron, and was the home of Arthas Menethil before he became the Lich King. With the lore of the city from Warcraft 3, and Arthas being a fan-favorite character, the city definitely has the coolest story and lore in the game. The eerie atmosphere of a long-abandoned, thriving capital that has been turned into an undead stronghold gives this the most unique vibes out of all the major cities. My favorite part has to be the Warcraft 3 Easter eggs, with the dead rose petals, the blood splatter on the ground, and the hidden ambient dialogue where you can faintly hear the scene where Arthas kills his father. The vibe of the Undercity may not be everyone's favorite, but personally I think it is pretty cool with the eerie music, rivers of green goo, and unique colors and architecture of the undead. Another plus for this city is that it is in very close proximity to the Scarlet Monastery for leveling Horde players, and it is very close to the Plague Lands, so having a city close to Stratholme, Skolements, and Naxxramas is very convenient. A last bonus for Undercity is the fact that there are Zeppelins to Orgrimmar and STV at Braille right outside the city, which is better than what most cities have to offer. Now for the issues with the city, first is how spread out some parts of it are, especially with the large outer ring layout, making going back and forth between certain sections kind of annoying. It's by no means the worst layout for major cities, but it could be better. At least the bank and auction house are pretty close to each other, and I like how the inn, flight path, bank, mailbox, and auction house are all centralized in the middle of the city. Unfortunately, Undercity doesn't have any world buffs, otherwise it would probably rank much higher because there'd be more reason to be here more often. Also, Undercity has that pesky elevator, which is kind of obnoxious, especially on hardcore, so that knocks it down a peg. Next is a capital city that is probably the least favorite of a lot of people, and that is Orgrimmar, the main capital city of the Horde. First, let's begin with the good things about the city. Starting off, Orgrimmar has Zeppelins, giving it access to both Tearsfall and Stranglethorn fairly quickly, making travel across continents pretty convenient. Orgrimmar also is where Horde players can get the Warchief's Blessing and Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer world buffs, so there is always going to be a reason to come here in the endgame. Additionally, the central layout of Orgrimmar with the bank and auction house next to each other is nice to have. Orgrimmar is also a hub to pick up a decent amount of quests, and Ragefire Chasm is located in this city, so you will often find yourself needing to come here while leveling. Lastly, Orgrimmar has a pretty good location in the world, since it is close to Onyxia and not super far from Dire Maul, while also being close to the Barrens, where Horde players spend a majority of their early game leveling experience. Now for the negatives, the first being that Orgrimmar is just kind of ugly. I get that Durtar is a desert, and it makes sense that the Horde is here, but this city is kind of an eyesore compared to every other city in the game. Why would I want to be in a dry, bright, and unpleasant looking stronghold with spikes everywhere when I could be in a magnificent castle or an elegant Night Elf city? Also, why is the city so big with the Valley of Spirits and the Valley of Honor? If you don't have a mount, it takes like 2 minutes to walk across the city. So say you need to train first aid in engineering, that is super annoying. I feel like Orgrimmar could have been heavily condensed because half the buildings in the city are massive with like 1 or 2 NPCs in them, and half of them don't even do anything. The only part of the city that I kind of like other than the center is the Cleft of Shadows because at least it looks cool. But that's about it. Now onto the upper half of the list. First I've chosen Thunderbluff. I actually quite like Thunderbluff and think it has relatively few negatives. First, the look and atmosphere is top notch and is very unique, with the giant bluffs looking over the beautiful plains of Mulgore. I love the giant totem in the middle of the city, where you can climb up to different levels with the Flightmaster at the top. The music in the city is also very good, and probably my second favorite for the major cities. The layout of the city is also mostly convenient, with almost everything centralized in the center bluffs besides a few class trainers. This makes navigating Thunderbluff way less of a hassle than other cities, since everything is so close and organized. Thunderbluff also has a good location similar to Orgrimmar, being close to Dire Maul, Onyxia, and the Barrens. Additionally, it is the closest major city to Silithus, which makes getting to AQ less of a hassle. The only real negatives about Thunderbluff is the fact that there are no world buffs here, there are no Zeppelins like Undercity and Orgrimmar, and the fact that you can fall off bridges and elevators, but that is only a problem if you don't pay attention. I think Thunderbluff is pretty underrated, and honestly, if the world buffs dropped here instead of Org, I think this is where most Horde players would be. Next, I'm going to place Ironforge, capital city of the dwarves and the favorite of many Alliance players. Honestly, the biggest thing going for Ironforge is simply how cool this city is. It looks like something straight out of Lord of the Rings, and is absolutely awesome with perfect theming. The giant forge in the middle of the city, the giant dwarf statue greeting you at the gate, and the powerful music blaring in the background all set the perfect vibe for a dwarf stronghold in the mountains. Looks-wise, this is probably my favorite city, but that isn't the only great thing about Ironforge. The location of Ironforge in the world is extremely convenient, being in the middle of the Eastern Kingdoms, right next to Blackrock Mountain, where many players spend a lot of their time in the endgame. It is also close to the wetlands, where a boat can be taken to Darkshore or Dustwallow Marsh, and while I wish they could travel straight from Ironforge, it is still the best the Alliance gets. Additionally, Ironforge has the Deep Run tram, giving quick access to Stormwind, and the main hub of the Commons in the Great Forge area is very convenient, with most things you need being well organized and close by. The only real issues I have with the layout is how far some of the trainers and Tinkertown are on the outer ring. The size of Ironforge isn't as big of an issue compared to a place like Orgrimmar, in my opinion, since the city actually looks cool and has a good atmosphere, so I don't mind spending more time here. The main negative of Ironforge is the lack of Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer to obtain here, because for that, you have to be at the first place entry on this list. And in my opinion, the best major city in Classic WoW has to be Stormwind, which is just all around awesome. First of all, the theme here is absolutely perfect, and is exactly what I would think the pinnacle of human civilization in Azeroth would look like. The main gates in particular just inspire awe in new players who walk into the city from Elwyn. Human architecture in general is just pleasing to look at with its traditional fantasy aesthetic, especially compared to the places like Orgrimmar. Additionally, the music in Stormwind is one of the best soundtracks in the game, and is without a doubt iconic. Additionally, Stormwind's location in the world is great, being almost as close to Blackrock Mountain as Ironforge, but is also close to Stranglethorn Vale, putting you close to Zul'Gurub and Booty Bay with the boat to Ratchet. Additionally, there's the Deep Run tram going to Ironforge. Another great thing about Stormwind is how well organized it is, with all the districts, and the Trade District being a very convenient central hub as well. Stormwind also has the Stockades inside of it, which is a quick and easy dungeon to do for Alliance that also serves as one of the best boosting dungeons if you care to do that. Stormwind also is where Alliance can get the Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer world buff, giving you a reason to go there often, and there are a lot of quests that you'll pick up or turn in here, so you will be here a lot both questing and endgame. Overall, Stormwind is just amazing in its design and layout, and has pretty much everything going for it. I can see how you think it is a little spread out or confusing, especially in the Mage Quarter, but that is the only real negative I can think that this city has. And that concludes my ranking of the major cities in Classic World of Warcraft from worst to best. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Leave a comment below with your favorite major city. With that being said, I'm out.